if I could pull up any chart or a picture of a chart that just reflects really nicely the sentiment, the mentality that I think is in markets right now, this is a great chart. This is a 6-hour ADA chart. We're actually going to break down some really nice technical analysis kind of targets in terms of ADA. What's next? I mean, that's kind of the question. What's next? When are we going to get out of this mess? When is it going to end this sideways pain? And when I look at this chart, this big red rectangle, this is ADA. This is 9 months. And I was talking to a Cardano Twitter friend and business partner, and we're looking at a range, essentially. This is what the reality is. This really clicked for me, of like 44 cents up here down to around 30 cents. Such a small range for any crypto, right? For 9 months. Obviously, we kind of capitulated out of that range briefly, but on this 6-hour chart, for the most part, it has been a roller coaster ride. I want to just have this conversation. What's next for Cardano? We're all kind of thinking that same thing. A lot of people are just frustrated with markets right now. They're frustrated even with me. The fact that I'm doing videos, the fact that I am continuing to discuss. Let's lay the groundwork on the macro. Bull market high, halfway through the bear market. You all know me. I'm just long-term in crypto. And this is like a multi-year, multi-cycle type of thing for me. That's what the game is for me. So I'm going to be bullish here. I'm going to be bullish here. I'm going to be bullish here. Within that, though, we're going to evaluate the midterm, the cycles, all the data. So when we're at bull market highs, we understand what's realistic, right? We understand the bull market's end. But when we're in bear market lows, it's the same type of thing. We understand, and it's no guarantee, but from what I'm seeing, I think it's going to end. And typically, when we get into these like alert ranges, this negative mentality range, this is how cycles look at the end. You can even just go look at an ADA chart in the last cycle, right? It was kind of sideways as well, sideways and down before it started actually making a move. And then COVID obviously came in and kind of threw that chart off for a second. But these environments happen, whether they're down and sideways, whether they're just kind of more sideways. This is what bear market to bull market pivots look like. So I just want to get that out of the way. Now let's talk about what's next for Bitcoin, or what's next for ADA, and just discuss the charts. If we go to the daily, I want to kind of spend a lot of time here. For support, we're going to really use the 6-hour chart a little bit, but I want to just kind of see where we are on the daily chart, because this is what's happened so far. Technical analysis perspective, just almost perfect. We had the rising channel, the nice gains that we were in. This was a really big move for ADA. This was a monumental move in April for ADA. The reason being, if we remember, ADA broke away from the 20-week moving average in green and briefly got above that 50-week moving average. But the important thing was the extension, the separation it got from that 20-week moving average. That's the area we've been talking about all bear market, just getting above that area and starting to just maintain above that area. And that's still the story that's kind of in play right now. Right now, the 20-week moving average, ADA is below it. And that's probably on the macro, the most critical thing that I'm watching. So again, I just want to see ADA above that 20-week moving average. You go back, you look at the last cycle. It's not to say it can't be getting ready for something bullish if it's below it, right? We saw ADA below it for weeks, months before the bull run really started for ADA. But we want to see the shift from the 20-week, the 50-week. We want to see the convergence of those moving averages, and we want to see the 20-week ultimately get above that 50-week moving average. And that's happening right now on this chart, slowly but surely. That's that first thing. But again, going back to this daily chart, here's what we have. We have the nice setup. We fell out of this rising channel after that nice move in April, fell out of the rising channel sideways. It took a little bit to really kind of hit a target range of that channel. Along the way, we formed this new falling wedge, ADA most recently, and this is kind of where we are. Most recently, broke above that trend line and just kind of hobbling down that trend line right now on the daily. Notice the key resistance on the daily chart. This is the 20-day moving average now. You can see ADA just struggling to get back above that, failed resistance right there. So we're kind of in between a resistance and support area. Support being this breakout and then the trend line being revisited. We want to evaluate, will that maintain support, or is ADA just going to fall right back into this range? This is a move that could happen very quickly to the downside. So to the downside, what happens at the 35-cent range? We go over and we pivot to the 6 hour. This is probably a more relevant support area that I'd be watching if ADA is going to continue down. And then we'll talk about upside. But it's this swing low back here to, and this was in March, to the swing high, that nice run we had in April. And it's just this higher low Fibonacci that ADA has kind of retraced down to. And you can see the 618 right around 36 cents, the 786 right around 33 cents. So it's that 33-cent area, allowing for even more downside for ADA. That means even in a higher low environment, and again, it's not fun. From where ADA is right now, we could be talking about 9 to 10% to the downside. After already being down, this would be a total downside of almost 30%. Not fun, but even so, when I zoom out on a chart like that, and ADA is actually kind of hovering in the more oversold territories, all that retracement, and ADA is still putting in not only a higher low, but kind of a double higher low, right? It's a higher low from back here, and it's a higher low from most recently this March swing low. So ADA, all this downside, we want to see, I'm going to be watching this area. Is there support? Before we talk about the upside, what that looks like for ADA, I just want to throw this out there because I did a Bitcoin video earlier talking about prepare for the worst. Let's do it right here for just take 1 minute to prepare for the worst. That's crypto markets falling, probably stock market over here falling, S&P falling. Things are getting bad in this recession year. It's possible. I think the worst for markets are over. There's obviously possible downside. What does that look like if things get really bad on the shorter term? We have the swing low back here, to swing high, and always just prepared for really big capitulation type of moves. And what I mean by that is we had the swing high, right? So if this falls, we're talking about almost a 40% dip for ADA, but that's a 786 at 28 cents. And the reason why I think that's an important thing to note is if we go back here and we look at this consolidation that is taking place in the daily, and if we discuss the fact of, you know what, if support fails, 200-day moving average fails, that 33-cent range fails that we just looked at. Remember, it's the lower end of this shorter term Fibonacci. That fails. If support's failing, if cryptos are falling, which happens, we know it can happen. What are the targets? Well, we saw the 28-cent target, the higher low Fibonacci on the macro. But check this out. We have another 28-cent target out of this falling wedge. So there's even a pattern in play where we're getting this fake breakout to the upside, could turn into a busted pattern, meaning the opposite is true, and we hit the target to the downside. Just being prepared for that. In my videos, everybody, you know, I discuss upside and downside. So that's the downside scenario that I'm just prepared for. Don't know if it's going to happen. Have no idea. But I'm watching closely this at the very least on the short term, this trend line. Will ADA pop out of that? One thing to know, and we can pivot to talking about upside now. If you look at this daily chart, and this is another thing my Cardano buddy brought up to me. We have this, the MACD shifting. It's not that strong of a momentum play right now on this chart. You can actually see MACD most recently was breaking above that red line, the signal line, but you can just see right now that is failing. And so we might see this fall back below. Maybe we get a higher low on the MACD before it's actually making a break to the upside in a couple weeks. Maybe there will be downside before this actually truly starts seeing some momentum to the upside. You can even see back here in December, a little bit of a similar move, a break above the signal line and then falling back below before the move to the upside. But if we look at these MACD crosses, I think it's worth noting and watching when this happens. Check it out. There's oftentimes, it's not guaranteed indicator. It's just one indicator to use amongst others. MACD crossing there. And then we had, let's open this up a little bit at the bottom of the screen. We had a MACD crossing right here. So you can just see, and look at this double bottom even. This double bottom before that blast off. And what was the MACD doing at that double bottom move? Well, we just kind of looked at it. There's a little bit of a dip to the downside. Are we going to get a double bottom type of move here before just an explosive move for ADA? And this is what markets tend to do. They really just tear down sentiment. They really just tear people down, the markets, and get that emotional negativity, the fear flowing. And then all of a sudden, when things are just coming out of an oversold or the momentum is starting to swing, all of a sudden we get that move to the upside. So Tons of room still to the downside. We know the targets. We know to prepare for it. At least this is why I'm doing this video for myself, so that I can prepare for it. But I'm also very aware of the fact that if ADA is to actually bounce off the apex here, not even break down to the downside, and we actually get a move to the upside sooner than later, we still have a target of 44, 45 cents to the upside, and that's a shorter term target. But if you just zoom out, we still have this entire thing in play. And I'm just going to clear my screen real quick. I'm not really going to draw on it, but you can just see this picture. And it's not a perfect, beautiful picture, but we have this move to the downside back here, popping back to the upside. We have this move, bigger move to the downside, and just slowly to the same upside with a similar resistance. And then we're coming back down. I still think, even though we were tracking, and I'm gonna chart it now, we were tracking an inverse head and shoulders here, right? Just like this. The breakout was right here, and we fell back down. I am very much just still interested in this story. It's a left shoulder, the bull stepping in stronger for the head, the right shoulder, whether you want to put it here, or we can even just bring it up to here, right? It's just this move to the upside could be the head, and then we're getting the right shoulder now. It doesn't really matter. All I know is the right shoulder is just the formation of the bears stepping in this right shoulder area and failing, right? So that would be the setup for ADA, and it'd be way easier to chart. And let me actually just go over to the 6 hour and just kind of show you this. And I know it might look like I'm stretching, but charts change, and so my eyes change with it. And that is to say, again, this pullback left shoulder, here's the head, and this is the situation. Is this the move to the upside? And then the right shoulder's coming into play now, right? And this could be what the inverse head and shoulders looks like. And I know a lot of people don't like technical analysis for this very reason, because you kind of change it as it goes. But it's not so much the beauty of the pattern, it's the fundamentals behind what the story of that pattern is saying. And the story is simple. The left shoulder consists of bears stepping in, bulls bringing it back to a neckline. Bear stepping in stronger for the head, bulls bringing it back to that certain neckline area, and then bear stepping in one last time, not as strong as the head, and failing some point along the way, and then bulls stepping in and actually getting that massive breakout. So that is just 100% still in play in my view. It's 70 cents to the upside is still a target to the upside. I realize as I'm saying that, after all of this pain, after the potential for more downside, people think that's a joke. People think I'm just overly bullish. I'm misleading people or something like that. But I'm not sitting here doing a whole video saying we're going to 70 cents, everybody prepare. It's just in play, in my opinion. And I've seen time and time again on this YouTube channel, we've tracked it time and time again, where we're setting up targets that look ridiculously impossible, and the markets, they just completely surprise everybody, and it hits the target. And the same is true for the downside, right? So I'm going to continue tracking all of this. One thing that I do know, when I go to the ADA on the weekly, I zoom out, I'm just kind of like, man, we just did all that zooming in technical analysis, and ADA looks so on track, even if there's going to be a big dip. And really, from a macro perspective, that's all that really matters to me right now. Trying to figure out how to accumulate my Cardano or my Cardano altcoins, and how much do I want in Cardano versus the altcoins, things like that. That's kind of what my thing is for the long term, my long-term plays. That's what I'm focusing on. But one thing I do know is, I was just talking to my dad about this. I think 2022 was the worst of it. That year before the recession, we have this data, usually is the worst for markets. So the year before the recession, 2022, usually would be the worst for markets. And the economy, obviously, we're in a recession 2023, but the market is not the economy. So this was a longer video than I wanted it to be. I wanted this to be a quick TA, but those are my thoughts for Cardano right now. Everybody, be safe out there. I hope this is somehow valuable to you, what I'm just tracking for my own personal journey. And I hope you have an amazing weekend. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.